So this is the last video for today's lesson. We're going to take a look at the WUSA news package. WUSA is the name of a television broadcast station in Washington, D.C., a local affiliate of, I'm not sure if it's ABC, NBC, or CBS, but they cover local news, right? And so we're still trying to determine the view of this. We're going to compare it and connect it between text and also look for conflicting information. So the first thing we need to do is take a look at, well, what kind of text do we have? Is a television package. What that means is the photojournalist and the reporter went out into the field and covered this event. And so they talked to a lot of different people. They shot a lot of different video. And then they went back to the broadcast station and they edited it to put it together as a package. So this might have been aired at the 6 o'clock news or maybe the 11 o'clock news. I'm not sure. If it was aired at the 6 o'clock news, it was only a couple hours after this happened because it happened at 4 o'clock. So, of course, it is nonfiction. It is meant to strictly inform. It's not to entertain. It's not to inform and entertain. Strictly information. This is hard news. Okay, hard news is a term in journalism to describe news that is breaking news that people need to know. And the craft and structure, it's what you're going to see that it's in chronological order. It gives you eyewitness accounts and visual evidence. So the structure is chronological order. The craft uses an eyewitness account and visual evidence to tell the story. So try to forget what you read in the NTSB report. Try to forget what you read in Rosenblatt's commentary, and just focus on what you see in the video. Okay, what are the facts? What is the perspective? That's what we're going to add here. We're going to watch this twice. So we're going to add that first. Here we go. Hopefully the video will work. If the video doesn't work, then what I want you to do is just use the link right here. Okay.
The airport was closed on and off all afternoon in the heavy snows. The plane closed down with solution and de-iced, and at 3:30 this afternoon, the runways were reopened. Planes lined up, and 15 minutes later, Air Florida's Flight 90 would take off. It was bound for Tampa and then on to Fort Lauderdale. The plane began its climb, usually a steep and twisting climb to follow the river. But from eyewitness descriptions, this flight took a sudden plunge toward the 14th Street Bridge. Lloyd Krieger was in his car on the bridge when the plane went down just 150 feet away.
You know, and all of a sudden, you didn't see anything, and then all of a sudden, this plane just comes dropping right out of the sky, right at you. And all I did was scream. Its nose was up, its tail was down, the tail section hit the bridge and it went right off into the water.
At the time, 3:45, the bridge was clogged with traffic, and about an hour manned by the heavy snow. The plane shared across cars and a truck. Some vehicles were literally crushed. Others had their top torn off.
Okay. So as we watch that film, vastly different than what we've seen in the commentary and in the NTSB report. Okay. First thing we saw was that the planes were being de-iced. Now, it's easy to compare, right? We know that was actually foreshadowing what didn't happen, right? It's kind of interesting that the video starts with that because they don't find out for another 7 months that was the problem, that plane wasn't de-iced. You know, they were taking footage of the airport of what was going on that day because of the snowstorm. So that was footage, you know, that was probably taken at like noon that day or 1 o'clock or whatnot. And then they used it to tell this story because they were saying, well, planes were being de-iced. You know, the airport was closed on and off all day. So we get the perspective of what was going on at the airport. And then they say eyewitnesses saw the plane plunge toward the bridge. And we got our man Lloyd there. I remember my dad used to have a hat like that and glasses like that growing up. He says its nose was up and its tail was down. Okay, and so that's a very good eyewitness account of exactly what happened. Said the tail section hit the bridge. So you can kind of visualize how the plane was trying to take off, right? The nose is up, it's trying to get into the air, but the tail dragged it down, right? You could see visuals of the vehicles crushed with their tops torn off. Okay, that is the first time we've seen that. We heard a description of cars crashed on the bridge in the NTSB report, but we could finally see it. So what are the main topics in this video? Well, the planes were de-iced, the airport was closed, it was snowy weather, the plane hit the bridge, cars were annihilated. And again, we talk about text. It's not just what we hear or the words on the screen, it's also what we can see. And you could see that those cars were crushed. So you could probably recognize that people died. So we're going to watch it one more time. Now, this time we're taking a look at the author's tone, the attitude toward these main topics, okay? And don't forget the music and the camera angles, right? Is there any music? What are the different camera shots? Okay, make sure you use that as text evidence. So take a look at what the tone is and what the text evidence is for that tone, and tell what the tone is. So here we go. We're going to watch it one more time.
National Airport was closed on and off all afternoon in the heavy snows. Planes were hosed down with solution and de-iced, and at 3:30 this afternoon the runways were reopened. Planes lined up, and 15 minutes later Air Florida's Flight 90 would take off. It was bound for Tampa and then on to Fort Lauderdale. The plane began its climb, usually a steep and twisting climb to follow the river. But from eyewitness descriptions, this flight took a sudden plunge toward the 14th Street Bridge. Lloyd Krieger was in his car on the bridge when the plane went down just 150 feet away.
And all of a sudden, you didn't see anything, and all of a sudden, this plane just come dropping right out of the sky, right at you. And all I did was scream. Its nose was up, its tail was down, the tail section hit the bridge and went right off into the water.
At the time, 3:45, the bridge was clogged with traffic, an early rush hour mandated by the heavy snow. The plane shared across cars and a truck. Some vehicles were literally crushed. Others had their tops torn off.
Okay, so certainly, again, when we see it for tone, we see some different things. Everything is very fact-based. This is similar to the NTSB report, but it's very serious, okay? It says that the airport was closed on and off all day. It's a very serious and neutral tone. There's nothing good or bad about that, okay? When we hear Lloyd, he says, "I screamed." Well, that gives a horrifying negative tone, right? And so we can be more descriptive in describing the tone, all right? When we see the vehicles crushed with the tops torn off, it's very serious. It's very serious and maybe even horrifying, okay? So after taking a look at these examples of the tone, what is the point of view? Well, the point of view is that the plane hit a bridge and crushed many cars during rush hour, right? And so naturally, hopefully, you're already recognizing and thinking back, what does the NTSB report say? What did Rosenblatt's commentary focus on, right? Rosenblatt's commentary is called "The Man in the Water." This doesn't even mention a man in the water. It doesn't mention Lenny Skutnik running in. It doesn't mention how the helicopter pilots were heroes. All of that was brand new. Those stories had yet to be told fully. Okay. And, the newspaper was able to show those stories the next day because they don't have to deal with the video and audio of the medium, right? Here, they've got to get eyewitness accounts. They've got to put everything together. It may have taken a day or two before they were able to tell that story. Okay. But here in this, 1 minute news package, probably airing at 6:00 when things were brand new, when it was breaking news, all they knew is the plane hit the bridge and it crushed many cars. They were able to see the cars crushed. They showed, some of the debris from the airplane in the water, but they didn't have all the stories yet about that. That was still unfolding. So what new understanding do we gain from this video? Well, we get that eyewitness account that said the tail hit the bridge. And you would have probably, if you had gone through the NTSB report, it probably would have mentioned that. Okay, but we didn't comb through that. We also learned that planes were being de-iced and the airport was closed on and off all day, right? That was something totally new compared to the man in the water commentary. We didn't necessarily know that. It doesn't mention the rescue in the river, and it doesn't have all the information. Everything was still breaking. They had no idea how many people were on that plane. They didn't know how many people died. They had no knowledge of the man in the water. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of this type of media? Well, it doesn't mention the rescue in the river, and it doesn't have all the information. It's still breaking. It's still going on as it happens. There's still an investigation. One of the advantages of that NTSB report is that it had 7 months, or really as long as they wanted to take, to analyze all the data, gather all the information, and come to some conclusions. Here, this is only hours after the event happened. They're trying to tell you what they think is the truth, and some of it may not even be true, okay? But the nice thing is it provides eyewitness accounts right there on the scene. The NTSB report would have watched this video to get more eyewitness accounts, as well as probably interviewed Lloyd, Okay. How does it compare to the other text? Well, it's on the scene. That's what I love about news. It's raw, right? It's giving you a window to the event. It's like you get to look through that window through your television screen and see what it was like as things started to unfold or shortly thereafter. And you're getting footage of the damaged cars, right? That NTSB report doesn't necessarily have any photos of the damaged cars. You get to see them in the footage. So what is the main idea? Well, a plane crashes on the bridge and damaged cars. And that's what we saw. It's very clear. Okay. And that's what you need to understand and you need to glean from that report. So make sure you took the time to check with this video as you put in your answers and go ahead and submit that video. But again, our whole purpose is to see how we gain different bits of information from different texts, right? So we're able to determine the point of view of the different texts, but we're also able to connect and identify conflicting information and look at the tone. Okay,